We have a very special guest logged in with her amazing October-ish background. Councilwoman Morgan is here tonight to welcome us. Welcome, Councilwoman Morgan. How's your sound?
It's great.
Excellent.
As soon as I figure out how to unmute all the time.
Thank you for coming in to our session this evening. Would you like to say a few words to the group?
Sure. I was looking at all the names of everybody that's here, and I see we're missing Nancy Oldham, who is a part of your class. So we're going to get on her for missing this. She's a fellow Rotarian. And also I see Jack Downey, which I know, and Robert Olszewski. Were we not in BNI together? That name is awful familiar right there. But for the others, hi, my name is Stephanie Morgan, and I'm City Council, Port St. Lucie. I do represent District 1. I always like to say that I represent everyone. In Port St. Lucie, we are a council of 4 with the mayor, and whatever you need, we're always available. We've got a great working team these last 4 years. And of course, we'll be getting 1 or 2 new council members after the election. I wanted to thank all of you for your commitment and your interest in doing the City University. It is amazing what you can learn about the city, because we get so many calls and so many questions about different things. And it's just great that you're taking the time out of your life to learn more about the city in which you live in and how we operate. This is a great night tonight because I see Michelle Franklin is on here. And you can ask her why your taxes keep going up every year, because it's so funny. And I was just, that's a joke. Don't ask her. So many people don't realize that she's not the one that sets the millage rate. It is your district, it's your Port St. Lucie, your city, and then also your county. And then there's a lot of other districts, but I'm going to let her explain all of that. I'm sure she will. But it'll be a great night. The NICE program is amazing. I hope everyone knows what neighborhood you live in. I'm part of St. Lucie North. I live on the north end of the city off of Midway and Selvitz. So I hope everybody takes an interest in that. It's a great program that they have going. And I wanted to say, I did not know that you did the Waste Pro recycling truck. I wish I could have been there for that. Waste Pro, of course, is our vendor, our supplier for picking up all the garbage and the recycling. And I'm sure you've heard some of the discussions that we've had this past year. And I hope everyone has had great service by Waste Pro. I have lived in my home here for over 20 years, and I've only had one issue. And when you compare the times that they pick up, which is over 1 million a month, because they pick up garbage twice a week, yard waste once a week, and recycling once a week. And you take those 4 and times it by how many residents and also commercial they pick up. It's a lot of work. I have ridden the truck. I was a trash lady or whatever you want to call me. I was a trashy broad one day, and I went out and I worked on the truck and was tossing trash. And it is a hard job. It's stinky. I commend and thank the workers every time I get a chance. It is not one of the most glamorous jobs out there, but they do a lot of work and they pick up every single thing. So I saw everything from refrigerators to mattresses to couches. It was just amazing what you see out there. But that is a great thing. And I'm glad that you're also doing that, Alex, is to let people know more about Waste Pro and what they do. And I'm sure that if you do have any issues, they're readily there to answer any questions. And if not, call our office at City Council, and we will take care of it. I've not had any issues. I know there have been some issues in the city. They've gone through growing pains, but they're there, and their customer service is number one. Other than that, if you want to know anything else about me, just thank you again for your time. And I hope to see you out there see you in person someday. I'm sure that this is difficult because I always enjoy coming to the meetings because they always have great food. So you're going to have a big party at the end and have a lot of food. You owe them that, Alex.
Yes, definitely. Thank you very much, Councilwoman Morgan. I'm sorry I didn't get the invitation about the recycling truck to the council office. You just reminded me. But what I will do is I will make sure that you receive a save the date for October 28th and November 4th. So October 28th, we're going to have our other truck and heavy machinery demo. That's for the Public Works and utility trucks. And we're setting that up in the west parking lot of the event center this year. And that will be on October 28th. So save the date and I'll send a message to council. And November 4th is the graduation ceremony. We are planning that on the deck that overlooks the lake at the event center, and we'll have some food and some treats and some goodies for everyone. Thank you, Councilwoman Morgan. Now, another special guest with me tonight.
I'm sorry, Alex. I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. If there's any questions, I'm going to go ahead and sign off because you've got a packed agenda and I've got other things that I've got to get back to. But if there's any questions, I'll answer them, or feel free to let Alex know and she'll get in touch with me. But thank you again and have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, my next very special guest tonight is my direct supervisor, my number one boss. He is the Director of Neighborhood Services, and his name is Carmen Capizzuto. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank Councilwoman Morgan for a great job. She's such an authentic, genuine person, and just a pleasure to be around. So thank you again, Councilwoman Morgan, for being on here.
Get it? No?
I am a Generation Xer, so this is a little bit weird for me to be presenting virtually, so I apologize if it seems a little disjointed or just unusual, because that's how it feels for me. But I applaud you all for being part of this group tonight when you could be watching the news, and then Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy later on tonight. So you're giving all that up for us on a Wednesday night, so we appreciate that. A little bit about myself. I started with the city in 2001, which means I'm starting my 20th year as an employee of the city. And I came up through Parks and Recreation, and then after a couple of years in Parks and Recreation, I spent about 12 years in the Public Works Department, where I became a manager and got into emergency management a little bit, dabbled in solid waste, and that leads me to where I am today, which is in the Neighborhood Services Department. And in 2016, the former city manager approached me and my future assistant director, saying that they were going to form a new department, and you know, haven't looked back ever since. And we're going to go through some of the highlights of the department. I did scratch down some notes because I don't want to steal anyone else's thunder, but I'm blessed with such a highly talented staff. My staff does all the work, so I'm just there to give them support and make sure the wheels keep turning. We are a talented staff because we oversee such a diverse set of programs and services, which you're going to hear about all of those tonight. I found out you have not heard from the Public Works Department yet. That's going to be one of your last sessions, if not your last session. But the difference between what we do in neighborhood services and what Public Works does is Public Works is primarily responsible for all of the public property or the rights of way in the city. And neighborhood services, we're the opposite. We are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of private property. And we do a lot of that with code compliance, with proactive code compliance services. And you don't have to drive too far to see a community that doesn't have proactive code enforcement. A lot of times our code staff, gets a bad rap for bothering somebody or harassing them, but really being proactive is what keeps our community exactly what it is. Again, I would say drive somewhere that doesn't do or doesn't offer proactive code enforcement, and you'll see what it's all about. Code is one of those services that you don't notice it's being provided until it's not. And that's when we get a lot of our calls. If we have an area, a street in the city where we haven't gotten to yet, things are getting a little out of hand or a little unkempt, then we get called in. So we do proactively patrol, and one of our code enforcement supervisors is going to talk about this, but we do proactively patrol the city for code violations. We have to pick and choose our battles because we don't really want to harass people, but when we do get a complaint from a neighbor, we will have to come and knock on your door or leave a courtesy hanger. So if you've been one of our clients, thank you for correcting your code violations, but know that we are largely proactive, but when we do get a complaint, we have to address it. So code and compliance, like I said, we maintain a lot of our upkeep on private property. Our housing division, which you're going to hear from Alex on that tonight, we provide housing assistance programs to low to moderate income families. And why this department works so well together with these divisions is that we're dealing often with the same demographic. We're dealing with people that have to choose between putting food on the table or putting gas in their lawnmower to mow the lawn. So we offer homeowner assistance programs, repair and rehab, that we've offered down payment assistance, and all the details that Alex may get into later. But this department was brought together to focus on building up our communities for the betterment of our neighborhoods. Alex is also going to talk to you about our NICE program, and the NICE program also aims at the betterment of our communities. We're trying to get people to know each other in their neighborhoods, get them out of their backyards and, out front and, knowing who lives next door, who lives across the street, finding the commonality with your neighbors. And you may have heard on the first session where the city manager and or the mayor may have told you that, city government, we are the government closest to the people, and that's so true, and that's evident in our department. Lastly, what one of our biggest responsibilities as a department is management of your solid waste collection services. So we oversee the single largest service contract in the city, and that's our WastePro franchise agreement. And we also have an agreement with St. Lucie County, the landfill, which accepts all of your trash, recyclables, and yard waste. So that does keep us busy in our department. As Councilman Morgan stated, WastePro does provide over 1.3 million services per month when you take the 74,000 households and multiply that by 4 services per week. So I always say with WastePro and garbage collection in general, it's almost like dealing with complaints from the power company. Nobody calls you to tell you, hey, FPL, you're doing a good job keeping my lights on. They really only call you when they have a problem. So just know that these men and women do work hard out there. They are residents of our community. Most of them live here, and they do provide great service to our community. They are humans. We have vehicle, issues. We have, human error, all those things that go into providing your service. There are breakdowns of the system, but we are doing our best to keep that high level of service up. And Michael Hahn, our solid waste manager, is going to talk to you about that. So I'm going to wrap up. Those are just my quick overview comments. I'll pause for any questions. I do have to also leave early this evening for a family commitment. So are there any questions for me at this time? There are no questions. Okay. So thank you all very much. It's been a pleasure being here tonight. I would like to finish by introducing Michelle Franklin, our property appraiser. We reached out, I believe, to Michelle maybe a year or two ago to come to a city university and be part of this to kind of explain what it's like to be one of our constitutional officers and how her role fits into our role as a city and how we maintain the tax base to collect the revenue, to provide all of the services that we do. So she'll go into the details of that. And if Michelle is on the line, thank you, Michelle, for being here. I will step away and let you have it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Nice to see you, Carmen.
Nice to see you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Franklin. I am your St. Lucie County property appraiser. Very thankful and honored to be elected back in 2016 as your property appraiser. I had worked in the office for years prior to that. So I have a love of educating you about the property appraiser's office. There's a couple things that I want to share with you tonight. And if at any point there's questions, I'm going to try to also watch this chat box. I don't know about raising the hands or how that works exactly, but we'll try to watch for all of those things. At any point, anything that you need me to dive in deeper, I'm happy to do so. I have Robert joining me this evening off camera. You can't see him, but he's kind of driving the bus, if you will, while I walk through the presentation. One of the things that I wanted to cover is information that's available, public record on our website. So if you have not yet visited paslc.org, Robert's going to share our screen right now and show you the website. And in visiting our website, there's a ton of information that you can find here. A couple things that I wanted to go over and ensure that you are familiar with is that you can file online. On the homepage left area, you will see file for exemptions. So whether that's homestead, widowers, total and permanent disability, veterans, all of the exemptions that are available, you can learn about them under the exemption tab and then file for them under file for exemptions. A couple of other things on the website right now, as we're inching towards November 3rd, if I were counting, I would tell you that's about 20 days away, is Know Your Ballot. There are going to be 2 items on the ballot this November, Amendment 5 and 6, which relate to our office. Amendment 5 is about portability, and Amendment 6 about veterans exemptions and the continuation of those for their spouse should a veteran decease that receives that exemption. So I encourage you to visit our website, or I believe there's a few things out there, maybe on the League of Women Voters or other places about the other amendments, all of the amendments together, where you could learn more about those. But 5 and 6 are related to the property appraiser's office. I did some short videos, and as you can see on the screen, there's a couple of just a short sentence to help you understand what a yes vote means and what a no vote means, because sometimes that can be challenging with amendments with the way they write them to understand how you're voting. Additionally, on our website, if you go in and search for, we're going to randomly pull up a property here, Robert, you will see when you search by real estate that you can view your trim notice. This is continuation all year long that you can view this notice. And hopefully you've received your notice for all of the properties that you own or tangible personal property that you have back in August. This is annually, this notice goes out in August, mid-August. Couple of things on the notice that you want to pay attention to, and I'm going to start with page 2 just to throw Robert off because he's on page 1 here. But we're going to go down to page 2, and this is the side that is related to the property appraiser's office. So as Carmen mentioned, I am a constitutional officer. We are separate from all of the entities that you see listed as taxing authorities on this notice. What we handle here in the office is page 2. This is what I affectionately call our information and what I think is most important on the notice. At the very top, you'll see your market value. We established that on January 1 of each year, and that is done based on sales that occurred in your neighborhood with like properties on January 1 of that year. You'll also see exemptions. So those are the 2 things, if you look at nothing else, the 2 things that I ask that you open the envelope and look at each year. Market value, and if you have exemptions on your property, ensure that those are in place. Another really fun piece of your trim notice is in purple, and that is your assessment reductions. So most of you understand that an exemption means two-part. One is the $50,000 off your value. And the second piece is that your value cannot increase more than 3% in any tax year. On this particular property, you will see in purple, the Save Our Homes cap, that 3% cap, has a value of $66,631. That is $66,000 of value that this homeowner is not paying taxes on because he's had the benefit of the 3% cap for years. If this gentleman decided he was going to move from this property to anywhere in the state of Florida, he could take that tax savings with him, $66,000 of tax savings, to any other property in Florida. So that is what's called portability. Remember, the Amendment 5 that we spoke of a few minutes ago relates to portability and the time frame of portability. So if you're not familiar with what portability means, please contact us. One of the professionals in the office would love to walk through it with you, help you understand what portability is, and if you have any on your property. Okay, back up to page 1 is where your city council, county commissioners, school boards, all of those taxing authorities are listed. This is an interesting part of your trim notice because this is where the rubber meets the road, where the tax rate, which is multiplied by the value of your property, gives you the amount of taxes that are going to be owed. We have 24 different taxing authorities in St. Lucie County. You're not going to see 24 on your bill because if you're in the city of Port St. Lucie, you're not going to see the city of Fort Pierce. So all of those listed on this trim notice are those taxing authorities that have jurisdiction related to your property. We provide the public hearing information there. So if you should have questions or disagree with the rates, you know who to contact. So that's where I know Councilwoman Morgan was kind of making a joke about the me setting the taxes and taxes increasing. But this is where you will see those taxing authorities, whether they have increased their rate, decreased their rate, or held the line each and every year. Again, you won't have all 24 on your bill. You'll only have those related to your property. A little further down from that, you're going to also notice your non-ad valorem section. Non-ad valorem means assessments that are not related to the value of your property. So the top section is related to the value of your property. The non-ad valorem is the same rate for everybody that receives that service. So on this particular trim notice, you'll see that there's stormwater and North St. Lucie water management. Whether you have a $200,000 house or a $500,000 house, you're going to pay the same amount there. So that's the ad valorem versus the non-ad valorem. And then again, bottom right, we give you a total of what the tax amount would be for this parcel, depending on what the county commissioners, city council, school board, all of those people establish as a rate. This is what you can expect in November. So that kind of covers our trim notice, covers Amendment 5 and 6, filing online. So let me take you to, I did want to mention, I'm sorry, there was one more thing. When we talk about those taxing authorities, the property appraiser's office is an independent office. So we are governed actually by the state of Florida. Tallahassee Department of Revenue approves our tax roll and our budget each and every year. So I think it's important to mention that, there's no benefit for me or anyone in this office to increase the value in a particular area or jurisdiction or to decrease it. We are doing what is the market dictates is correct. And assessing that value each and every year based on that market. So I know some people think because we're housed in the county is responsible for providing us office space. They think there's some connection to the entities, but there is not. So if you have questions or concerns, please do reach out to us. My job is here to help you. Trim notices paid with the mortgage company or separately by owners. Great question. Thank you for that. It depends on how you've set it up. So your trim notice is not a bill, but I think you're referring to your tax bill. And the tax bill for many people is actually paid by the mortgage company, and that is paid directly to your tax collector's office each and every November. They'll pay it at the end of November so that they get the greatest discount. But you can set it up so that you can pay that yourself as well. So, yep, great question. Thank you for that. All right. So now we're going to move on, and I'm trying to kind of watch my time here too. It's a little, I know they've mentioned, other speakers have mentioned, it's a little challenging when you're talking to yourself and you're not getting feedback. So I think I have 20 minutes, Alex. So if I don't, let me know. We're going to move right on to layers on our website that you may find interesting. So to share our screen again, Robert's going to pull up the website, and we are going to hover over to search by map. And from our map search, I would like to share some of our new upcoming projects here. One of the things that we have been working on, and Robert in particular, is wind speeds. So he's kind of navigating right now to the map layers. And from that, we just this week added wind zone for each category within St. Lucie County. So if you are in the building business, insurance business, you may find this helpful. We are continually making enhancements to our website, and I encourage you to reach out to us if you have suggestions for us. One of the reasons I want to show you these layers, not just because of our wind zones, but also because of our city boundaries, school districts, and our nice PSL nice neighborhoods. So if you're wondering, I know Councilwoman mentioned, where did she say she lives? Something north. I know she said, I forgot the name of it exactly. St. Lucie North. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Yep, that would be her area. So she lives in St. Lucie North. If you're wondering for sure what that looks like on a map, feel free to hop on here and check out our map layer that identifies each nice neighborhood. Zoning, permits, future land use. I mean, there's all types of things, as you can see listed there. One of the questions I used to get pretty often when I was out in the community was, hey, what's going at the corner of X and Y? And we have about 176,000 properties in St. Lucie County that we value each and every year. And I wish I could tell you what was going on in every one of them, but I'm just not that good, I have to admit. So what we've done with the city of Port St. Lucie so far, and we're eager to do this with other entities, municipalities, is to share their approved projects. So as you can see from the screen, you can map over to a particular area. I know you're over west. Can you go over US 1? How about, let's go to US 1. I know they're building across. Oh, sorry, I got a feedback. They're building, yeah, give us that yellow one there that I think is that our new Dairy Queen or Popeyes? Oh, we're across town. Yep, there it is. Popeyes coming in a little north of Walton Road there. And so you can click there and get more information and figure out, you know, where the next Wawa, Chick-fil-A, Popeyes, you know, what's coming to your neighborhood. All right, that kind of covers all of our layers. We talked about the trim notice. I know you probably all have, you know, received that and looked through that. Does anybody have any questions related to the property appraiser's office that I could answer for you? Trying to look for comments. Robert, where's my comments? Chat, there we go. Looking through, did we have a challenge with the audio, Alex?
I think we're good. You just explained everything so thoroughly that no one has any questions. Someone is commenting now about map layers. Stefan was at our demo this morning, or this afternoon, I'm sorry, with Waste Pro, and he's a very informed citizen and part of a neighborhood organization. So he commented their map layers, and there are a couple comments coming in right now, but it didn't look like we had any questions. There seems to be information missing. So
Let me
Yeah,
I see a point about paying backwards, not forwards, correct. So let me touch on that. Our assessments are done in arrears. So we assess property every January 1. You will receive your trim notice in mid-August, and then your tax bill for that property in November. Let's use 2020, November 2020, and then it's technically not due until March of 2021. So yes, when you are paying that bill, whether it's November or March or somewhere in between, you are paying in arrears. So that, yes, we're paying backwards.
Okay, and then I guess if we could just go through the steps one more time of how you got to that layer section.
Absolutely. Robert, do you want to back us completely out to the map search?
Sure.
And start from go there? If you're on the website and you ever get too far gone, you can always click on the logo and it takes you back to the home screen. So from there, you are searching by map, loads the map, and then it depends on how you want to search. If you're just looking for layers, you'll see here on the top right under map and click layers. You'll see all the layers that are available. You can expand some of those or not. My chat's going over it on my screen, so I'm not sure if that covered, but was it Stefan that asked that about layers? Did that cover it?
Yeah, it looks like he covered it. He said he's missing different colors. So I'm assuming there are different colors for different layers, right? So depending on what layer you select that you want to view is what you're going to be looking at, right, Michelle?
Yep, and you'll see like the FEMA flood hazard. I mean, there's different colors on that layer, and then different layers has different information. So you could actually have an aerial view up at the same time as your flood zones as well as your, I don't know how many other layers you can have at once. Some of them can overlay and some of them not as well. Not that you can read. So.
Some of us might get a little carried away and start clicking a whole bunch of layers, and then it becomes a little messy because you can't distinguish between the different stuff. So you have to remember, check one thing, take a look at it, and then uncheck it and before you check something else so that you can get clear colors and clear layers on there. But I want to thank Michelle so much for getting that neighborhood map layer up last year. It was fantastic for us because everybody was commenting how they didn't know. And this is just one more tool that we use to communicate with the neighborhoods. And it was super positive for us. So thank you. And thank you for all the hard work you do on the website. It's a great site. And we here at the city use it every single day for our work.
Well, it is our pleasure. And again, if anybody has suggestions for improvement, we're constantly trying to enhance. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all tonight. I'm so excited that you're involved in City University. And Alex, you've been such a great partner. Appreciate the opportunity to meet everyone and to talk about the Property Appraiser's Office. Please remember that we are here to serve you, and we would love to hear from you if you have any questions related to value or exemptions, or this website and the map layers. Please contact us because we would love to talk about it and hear your feedback.
Actually, before you go, there is just one last question that came through, and then I'll let you sign off. But
Yeah,
the
great.
question is, do ad valorem fees change or go away?
Okay, so ad valorem is the top section related to value. So those fees, if you will, are value. They're connected with your value, so that changes in theory every year based on the market. Non-ad valorem, the fees at the bottom that are set fees like solid waste. In Port St. Lucie, you'd have stormwater. Those are established by those entities that run that. So they're established by Waste Pro or by the City of Port St. Lucie, and they can change or remain the same year after year. So it kind of depends. And Alex, do you have somebody coming on about stormwater at some point that can probably explain better than I can about stormwater?
Yes, thank you. So we will talk about stormwater when we are visiting with Public Works on October 28th. So we will get more information about that at that time. But like our property appraiser said, if you have any specific questions about your bill, you can call the office, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's questions related to, and we have them in some areas, was this assessment paid off? When I purchased the property, the homeowner was responsible for paying off certain non-ad valorem fees. Certainly contact us about that. If it's like my trash wasn't picked up by solid waste last week, that's a solid waste question, and that gets routed to the phone numbers that are attached to the trim notice. We don't handle that. Solid waste or Port St. Lucie Stormwater gives us the rate, and then we display that. My goal with that is that you have a true idea of what your tax bill is going to be. Many property appraisers around the state do not display non-ad valorem information, because that's not the responsibility of the property appraiser's office. However, I feel that's a disservice because in some areas like Tradition, those are several hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of non-ad valorem fees. And I want you to have an accurate amount of what your tax bill is going to look like so that you can plan appropriately. But if there's questions, call us. If we can't answer it, we'll route you to the correct entity. We'll give you that direct line and we'll help you as best we can.
Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks so much.
Oh, you got it? Hi, everyone. So like I said, we do have a jam-packed schedule. We're going to go ahead and move on. We are going to try and give you a little bit of, Elijah's here. I'm going to do Waste Pro first and then Elijah after. I'm interjecting a new little bit into the agenda for tonight because normally everybody would have had the opportunity to meet our Waste Pro employees and staff outside at the demonstration, but since I know that everybody didn't get a chance to join us, I invited Michael Hahn from Neighborhood Services, who is the Waste Pro manager, and Lois Cardinali from Waste Pro. She's our customer service liaison here at the City of Port St. Lucie, and she actually works in-house with us, and I've invited them in to just give a brief introduction of themselves and what they do and how we're working to make sure that your Waste Pro service and garbage collection is perfect. Come on down.
Hello, class of 2020. About a dozen of you were out in the parking lot just a little while ago watching a really amazing demonstration conducted by Mason Jones, the Waste Pro maintenance manager. You got to sit in a recycling truck, also known as an ASL, automated side loader, as we now know. Pretty cool demonstration. For those of you who have never got to be up close and personal with a recycling truck, it was quite an experience, and he did a heck of a job. I wanted to thank him again for showing up and doing that for us. I have with me here tonight also Lois Cardinelli. As was mentioned earlier, she is the Waste Pro liaison, and she has an office here at City Hall. Some of you may have actually spoke with her on the phone if you requested service or a recycling cart or something. You probably spoke with her at one time. But I wanted to give you just a little overview of who I am. I came from the code department. I was a code supervisor. Came into this department about 1.5 years ago. The solid waste division is a new division, and I am the first manager of that division. So I get to blaze the trail, so to speak. But I wanted to throw out a few fun facts. Speaking of the ad valorem tax, I thought I'd bring this up right away. The 281.92 on your tax roll that covers your solid waste. I just want you to know that when you break the numbers down, you're looking at $1.36 per collection. You have 4 collections a week, and that breaks down to $1.36. So pretty hard pressed to find anybody that will haul your garbage away for less than that. So that's a pretty good deal. Waste Pro services 1.3 million homes a month, 74,000 houses. 1.3 million residential services, 74,000 homes. That's four collections per house per week. And like I said, $1.36 per pickup. That's pretty amazing. So one of the things I wanted to mention is that I want to talk just briefly about some of the questions that we fielded out in the parking lot regarding trash collection, recycling, without going on too long. And I'm going to bring Lois in to answer some of these questions that I know you're going to have. But I thought I would probably maybe put a few facts out here that might answer some of them right away. The city has unlimited pickup. That means basically anything you put curbside, and I know some people cringe when I say this, but anything you put curbside, Waste Pro will recover, with the exception of what's called C&D, construction and demolition debris. They'll take 2 cubic yards at one time. So if you put a whole bunch of stuff out there, they're going to take only 2 cubic yards. And a code specialist might visit you and tell you need to put the rest of that stuff out of sight until the next pickup day. So you might be cautious about putting all your C&D curbside. Yard waste, one of the things I want to tell everybody, you have piles of yard waste, Waste Pro will pick that up, but do not commingle any other garbage with that. You don't want to put lumber, garbage, anything else with your yard waste, because that goes to a separate location at the landfill. Wanted to let you know that Waste Pro has a litter crew that travels around the city in a golf cart, and they pick up litter, just like the city has their litter crew. They also have a crew that services all our pet waste stations, our garbage cans and recycling cans. And some of you who have pets and are walking your dogs may have noticed that on those pet waste stations, we have implemented a new method of contacting the city. If you happen to find that pet waste station broke, or maybe it's in need of a bag or something else, possibly one of the benches is damaged, we have a placard now installed on that pet waste station that gives you a phone number, it gives you an email address, and it tells you basically to give Lois a call, and she's going to take care of all your needs. If that pet waste station needs a bag, like I said, or something else, you give that phone number on that placard a call, and we'll be able to locate exactly where it is. Those locations now have been GPSed. We have a really pretty cool NSD asset mapper that we created that's in-house right now. It's not available for the general public to look at, but we use it to basically monitor all of our NSD, neighborhood services, solid waste assets. It's a pretty cool tool, and we're going to be using that a lot more in the months ahead to basically monitor all our trash cans, pet waste stations, so that we can service the city and provide you all with excellent service. One of the other things I want to bring up is that there's so many things to talk about. I'm going to try to limit that, but those of you who've come from someplace else, maybe the Northeast, maybe the Midwest, maybe out in the West Coast, are probably familiar with automated garbage recovery. We don't have it here. Some of you who have moved here were probably surprised to see garbage men standing on the back of a garbage truck, picking up trash like they did back in the old days. That's something that we are going to be implementing in a pilot program here in the city in the very near future, probably out west to start with, where you're going to be given a 96-gallon, basically a toter, kind of like the recycling bins you have, but 96 gallons. And everything that you can put in that toter is what you're going to be able to have recovered. Anything outside that toter will not be recovered, and you'll be offered possibly, maybe it's going to be 1 day a week where you'll have a bulk pickup, might be 1 day a month, we're not sure yet. But we're going to try to do several pilot programs, and for a lot of you that's going to be very familiar to you because you've probably already done this before. So the city's growing in leaps and bounds, and we're going to need to streamline and automate our trash collection service. So we're looking forward to doing that pilot program here real soon. We're also going to be launching some educational initiatives, trying to get people to recycle more. That's important because more people recycle, the less stuff ends up in the landfill. We're not building new landfills, as you probably know. Not good for the groundwater and a lot of other things. So we're trying to get more people to recycle, and it's a commodity. Let's face it. Some plastics, papers, they're a commodity. They have value. And so we want to get more people to recycle those, and we're going to basically tell you what to put in that toter, and as opposed to what not to put in. There's probably 1,000 things that you don't want to put in that toter, but really what we want to tell you is what you can put in there, and that number is a whole lot less. So we're going to start that initiative sometime. We're going to outline it probably this winter, and we're going to launch that next year. Let's see. I would say the best catchphrase for recycling is when in doubt, throw it out. If you're not sure, get rid of it. Don't think that, oh, this is made out of plastic, so it's got to be recyclable. That's not the case. So keep that mantra in your head. Whenever in doubt, throw it out, like a pizza box. It's cardboard. Yeah, but it's got grease on it. That piece of cheese stuck to the cardboard is not recyclable. Throw it away. So little things like that go a long way from keeping what would normally be a great toter filled with really good recyclable products from being contaminated. So just a few things in that toter that shouldn't belong there can completely contaminate the load. So it's real important that that's something that you consider when you're recycling. I'm going to bring Lois in here, and I will let her talk a little bit about a few topics. I will also chime in because that's what I do. So, Lois, why don't you step on in here? This is Lois Cardinelli. This is the face that you probably you've probably talked to her on the phone, but you don't know what she looks like, and now here she is, and I see the Hollywood Squares in front of me, so nobody sees Lois right now, correct? Is that right?
They can see her.
They can see her? Oh, good, because that's changed. Okay, cool. There's a lot. There we go. That's what I'm used to seeing right there. Okay. Alrighty. So, Lois, we got a couple of topics that I was interested in you going over. Call them all, which a lot of people, I think, have experienced here in the last several months. Something I'd like you to talk a little bit about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Michael. The Call 'em All system is something fairly new to Waste Pro, and it allows us to reach out to large groups of our customers with a certain message. Depending on what's happening at that time, it could be hurricane related. It could also be related by area. Perhaps we had a truck that failed during the day and we're not going to be able to finish that particular route. We can let you know not to worry. We will be back early in the morning and take care of that for you. And if you ever aren't sure if you're a part of that system, feel free to call me and I can add you in at any time. I'm happy to do that so that when we send our notifications out, you're a part of that.
We're going to work on an application template. Actually, we're going to task Waste Pro with working on an application template so that you can go on to either their website or a link on the city website and fill out that information, because I think it's really valuable that they have that for you so that if, God forbid, something happens and they aren't able to service your area or something storm-related, perhaps hurricane-related, they can get a message out to you real quick. I know the school systems do it, Amber Alerts, so we're trying to basically mimic that process and get the best current information out as we can. I also would like Lois to talk a little bit more about recycling. She fields a lot of questions about it, and she'll touch on a few things that I really didn't this evening. So one of them is we live in the age of Amazon, and that means cardboard boxes. So she'll tell you a little bit about that.
The cardboard boxes can easily get stuck in the bin. If you look at your bin, you'll see the design is not very conducive to cardboard boxes going in there. It's smaller at the bottom than at the top, so they tend to get wedged in. You can take your moving boxes when you first move in. It confuses a lot of people. What should I do with my moving boxes? Those can be stacked and put together and set out on either trash day. They definitely won't fit in the bin. So just feel free to put those out along with your trash. And what I do at home, if I have a small box from Amazon, I step on it and squish it and then put it in. But anything too large, much bigger than a shoebox, can get easily caught. And then what happens is when the bin flips up in the air, the cardboard keeps everything else from coming out. So we set it back down with your recycle still in the bin, which no one wants.
And another thing about the cardboard box is that, like the larger boxes, she said you can put it right next to your trash. Yes, it will go into the truck, into the trash truck, but when they take the truck up to the recycling and landfill facility, and they dump the stuff out on the tipping floor, which is what they call that large expanse where they dump all the garbage, they will sort out those big boxes. They'll actually pull them off to the side. So if they're in good enough shape, they will recycle those boxes. But right now, we don't have the ability to collect those larger boxes in a toter or any other modality right now. Maybe in the future we will. There might be a lot of it has to do with the price of cardboard. The price of clean corrugated goes up. I'm sure that somebody will come up with some creative way of collecting that, just like glass. Glass really doesn't have a real market value right now, even though we recycle it, and it causes a lot of damage to the recycling trucks, because it basically abrades the floor of the truck and forms holes in the truck. And sometimes you may have seen areas in the city where there might be glass on the road. That's because the glass gets crushed and it actually just wears out the floor of the truck. So, we're recycling it, but really what's happening is the landfill is grinding the glass up and they're mixing it with the fill that gets dumped onto the rest of the garbage, mixed up with dirt and other material, fill material, and it gets used in that capacity. It doesn't get turned into new bottles. So yes, shocker. But yes, keep recycling your glass, because who knows, it might be the next greatest thing to have recycling. If we stop recycling glass and all of a sudden they decide they can create incredible optics with beer bottles, by God, you don't want to not be collecting glass. So you definitely want to keep putting your glass in there. Another thing I'd like Lois to talk about is basically can placement. That's a big one, and we always have problems with that.
So can placement is very important, especially on what we refer to as your double day. And that is the day when we do both your garbage and your recycle. Your once a week recycling is always one of your garbage days. And on that day, we ask you to separate your garbage pails and your recycle pail by a minimum of 3 feet. Anyone that was at the demonstration today can see that the arms of the truck spread out very wide and they need room, and you want to keep that 3.5 minimum distance between your pails on your double day. Everything should be, down right at the end of your driveway. And the best thing to do on your double day, what I do at my house is I put my recycle bin on the side where there's nothing, and the garbage pail closer to my mailbox, because that is hand lifted. So the arms are very strong on the recycle truck, surprisingly strong, and they can do some damage if you put your pail too close to anything else. So we do ask for that separation.
And if you were here at the demonstration, those of you who weren't able to see that, I guess there'll be a video of that can be viewed later on. But you would see the herky-jerky nature of those hydraulic arms, and it's not a very smooth grapple. So if you have anything too close to it, literally you could just basically knock down or damage anything, whether it's a mailbox or even your garbage can. It can knock the garbage can right over. Now you've got your garbage laying on the ground, and you'll call up Wastepro and you complain to them, they knocked a garbage can down and all that, but you had it too close to your recycling bins. So it's important you keep that separation. Let's see, what else can we talk about here?
Let me just add one more thing
Sure.
about recycle before we move on. When we come to service your recycle can, the lid should be closed, and the barcode on the recycle bin should be facing the street. If it's backwards, it seems like just a very little thing, but it actually causes the recycle to fall back onto the ground if the can is set out backwards. And again, by backwards, it would be the barcode would be facing your home. So the lid should be closed. Nothing should really be protruding, because again, when we flip that can up in the air automatically, anything sticking out can easily fall to the ground. And then you're going to be unhappy with the service because you'll have recycling on the ground, and no one wants that. So the lid should be closed and the barcode should face the street.
And a great analogy of that would be like grabbing your Mr. Coffee pot and taking it and pouring it backwards over your handle and having coffee dump all over your hand, the floor, the table, making a big mess and scalding yourself. So what you want to do is make
That
sure
is a
that
great
lid
analogy.
opens the other way, because it just naturally pours out like that. If you have it the other way, okay, the recyclables will actually end up laying on top of the lid of the recycling bin. And so when that herky-jerky arm brings that recycling bin back upright, it now catapults all the recyclables that may have landed on that lid out into the street, onto your right-of-way, and then you call Waste Pro and tell them you did a terrible job. But it was actually you that put your can out the wrong way. So that's something that we want to stress, is put the can out the right way. And do we have some kind of a
Yes. so
question here?
We do have a few questions for you.
Oh, okay,
Are
let's-
you done with your topics that you wanted to go over? Do you want to?
Well, I could go on endlessly, I'm sure, but I want to say this much. I had a chance to ride in a truck, not on the back of a truck, thank God, but in a truck, and it's grueling work. These guys are working at 100-degree temperatures on those streets. It's tough. I'd last maybe a street and I'd be done. Even at the if I was in my 20s, I would probably last about one street, because I tell you what, this is difficult, grueling, hard work. Do everything you can to give these guys a break. Don't put stuff out there that weighs more than 50 pounds. These aren't robots. These are human beings. So give them a break. Give them a chance to catch their breath from house to house. And just remember, these guys are picking up your trash. I mean, again, it's a service. Just like you flip the light switch on and you expect your lights to go on, you turn your water on, you expect water, you put your garbage out, you expect that garbage to be picked up. So, just make it easy for them, and don't make it any more difficult than it already is. And I'll stop and we'll take questions.
Thank you so much, Michael and Lois. Really good information. It is definitely a huge part of our life, and oftentimes we take things for granted. But we just have to always remind ourselves, and attend City University. But we do have a few quick questions for you. First, it's what holidays are observed by Waste Pro, and where pickup will not be happening?
That's a great question, actually. We have much fewer than everyone realizes. We only have 3 days a year when we are closed. And those 3 days are the 4th of July, Thanksgiving Day, and Christmas Day. Those are the only 3 days each year that Waste Pro does not operate.
Okay, and we talked about the price per pickup and that everybody should be having 4 pickups regularly per week. There are some questions about the pickups and the schedule, so if we can clarify. I already mentioned to the group that we've got 2 regular pickups, 1 recycle pickup, and 1 yard waste pickup.
Right.
But some people are a little confused or have been having problems with their yard waste. They say that the yard waste, they're putting it out, they're separating it, but for some reason it gets missed often and they have to call, and it takes a little bit longer than usual. So what is the process there, and how can they help make it more efficient?
The procedure for the yard waste is confusing, actually. So on your yard waste day, which is once a week, you can put out a few handfuls. Something the size of a very small, like a college dorm refrigerator, is about all we take on yard waste day. So they're hand-picked, they're picked up by hand and put into the back of a rear load truck. So they can only take small piles that day. Then our clam truck, which takes the larger piles, runs 72 hours behind the yard waste day. So if you have a larger pile and we don't take it, you probably need the clam truck for that. And that will be, you can call me and you can schedule it. I always tell everyone, I prefer to have it documented in the system. I know when you called that way, I know when you put it out. So feel free, if you have a clam pile, to give me a call and just say, I want to get this on the schedule, and I'd be happy to do that for you. But your yard waste day is for smaller piles, and the bigger piles should be taken by the clam truck 72 hours later.
Thank you. And now, bulky items. So I grew up in South Florida. I grew up in an HOA. Rules in South Florida are very strict. There's not a lot of space like we got up here in Port St. Lucie now, but I noticed that in Port St. Lucie, there are a lot of bulky things always out on the side of the road. So what's Waste Pro's policy on picking up bulky items?
Well, as Michael mentioned earlier, we basically take just about everything that you can put out. The bulk items are run in a clam truck and picked up by the clam truck, the same truck that does yard waste, but it's a separate route. They can't be mixed together. So you'll see the clam truck come through for what we call move-out piles, which are very large piles with furniture and a lot of other items in there. and it comes through roughly once a week to pick those up. But again, if you have something large at the curb, it's great to call me. It's in our system, and you know, if something should happen and it's not picked up promptly, that way when you call me back to say there's a problem, I have all the information you initially gave me in the system.
Okay, and we'll make all of that information available to everyone through the flyer with your contact information. And I think it's great what you all are doing. I'm so happy to have this new division as part of neighborhood services, because it's really important in order to make sure the service runs well, and we have a direct link to Waste Pro now. So nothing gets missed, nothing gets past Lois. She's awesome that even council members have praised her at the meeting. So she does a fantastic job. Any questions, anytime, call her, contact her, leave her a message. She's always there for us.
One. Sure. My direct line at City Hall, where I'm happy to be every day, is 772-873-6317. I do want to mention, I'm not here on the weekends, so if you have a problem on a Saturday, you should call our main office, which is up in Fort Pierce, and that phone number is 772-595-9390. But I'm here Monday through Friday. I do follow the city holidays. So although Waste Pro may be working on, let's say, you know, an upcoming is Veterans Day, I won't be working that day because I work at City Hall, but Waste Pro's offices in Fort Pierce are open.
And of course, I have to still, yes, say something else because I forgot to add this, is that, and it's important actually, put your garbage out, which is recycling your garbage, preferably the night before pickup or by 7 a.m. Now, if you live in an area that's heavy with critters that get into your garbage, then probably do it in the morning. But otherwise, I put mine out the night before. You know, it's a sure thing you're going to get picked up. But, you know, Waste Pro has been rebalancing their routes, which means some routes had more houses than others. And so now they're trying to balance that out so they can finish earlier at night. So some of those times may change when they arrive at your property. So you want to be sure you have that trash out in time for them to recover it. So have it out before 7 o'clock in the morning or the night before, preferably.
And before you leave, just two quick quiz questions to make sure you guys are on point. Large hanging mirrors, do they go in the bulk pickup or in the garbage? And then the other one is paper bags that they sell at Home Depot for yard waste. Is it okay to put your yard waste in those paper bags?
So I'm going to answer the second question first. We love you for using the paper bags from Home Depot. The plastic bags actually create an issue at the landfill, and they have to be shredded away from the actual yard waste. So you can put it out, you know, as long as it's not something tiny like grass clippings or tiny twigs, you can put that out at the curb. But absolutely, we thank you for using the paper bags. They're wonderful. And the first question was?
Mirrors. Large mirrors.
Mirrors should be taped. We ask you to tape them with duct tape in maybe a tic-tac-toe type pattern or a big X. And the reason for that is not that we think we'll drop it, but when the mirror goes into the truck and gets compressed, there's a kickback. So we don't want that glass from the broken mirror as it gets compacted to kick back onto your street or onto our workers. So if you could use some duct tape when you put a mirror out, that will be very helpful and make it a lot safer for everyone.
Thank you so much. Lots of good information, and we appreciate your availability.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, class, for tuning in.
Yes, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. We don't have a break scheduled on our agenda because I accidentally left it out, but that's okay. We'll take one more presentation and then we will take a quick 10-minute break. But I have another special guest tonight. Normally, he presents at different times with different departments. Tonight, he's here presenting with us. Most recently, we've done a lot of work together, coordinating and collaborating with the county and the Business Navigator, to try and get as much help out into our communities as possible because of the situation that we're in with COVID. So I'm really happy to welcome tonight Elijah Wooten. He's got a flyer that I'll make available onto your virtual textbook. And he is here to talk about what he does, which is a really, really special function. And his role is the Business Navigator. So welcome, Elijah. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elijah Wooten, Business Navigator in City Manager's Office. Hi. I work in three main areas in the city, and I'll break it down into three categories. So the first of which is what I would call development services. And with that, I work with businesses of any size that are doing commercial developments, whether they're small buildings or very large buildings, and with the professionals that they hire. So they're general contractors, they're architects or civil engineers, and our departments. So our planning and zoning department, our building department, public works department, and utility systems department, one, to educate them on our process. You know, oftentimes, especially with some of the national retailers and restaurants, they have multiple locations throughout the country, and this might be their first time developing in Port St. Lucie. So we try to, explain to them what the process entails to get a site plan approved, to get building permits approved, the inspection process, et cetera. And then also working with the departments if there are any issues, and then trying to work together to facilitate and resolve issues to get their project back on track and delivered in time. The second part of my job is serving as a point of contact for the city for economic development projects. So City Electric Supply, or TAMCO, which you see in Tradition as you drive by I-95, is one of our local companies that was in St. Lucie West and relocated to the Tradition Center for Commerce to expand their facility. And so that, again, was one of the projects that we did in conjunction with the St. Lucie Economic Development Council, also Enterprise Florida, and then locally with the city of Port St. Lucie, St. Lucie County, as well as the state of Florida, to facilitate assistance and incentives to them. But there are other companies that are looking for locations, and we will get a call from the Economic Development Council, or referenced often as the EDC, with inquiries of companies that are normally under a code name that we either try to help them find a location, or if there are incentives that they're eligible for, that we do process those and present those to the council for approval. The third component is being the liaison between the small business community and City Hall, and then also developing programs to assist them. Right now, we currently have a business accelerator program that is held out at Indian River State College at St. Lucie West in the Pruitt Center. That's a 10-week course, again, for small business owners that need assistance with managing their business or growing their business. We have a team of folks from the Small Business Development Center that are presenters. So they cover topics like finance and marketing and social media management, a litany of things that most business owners have to be concerned with. They provide that through the course. And then also they have consultants that can work one-on-one with small businesses to assist them. One of the great things that the City Council did this year as well is they added support for small businesses to our strategic plan. And so right now I'm developing a plan and coordinating with the other departments to figure out how to facilitate assistance to small businesses. One of the things that we started this year, which I think is also a great service, is a course that we do quarterly called Before You Sign the Lease. And actually that will be next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. And that again is for businesses that may be looking in the area, may be looking to expand. And the focus of the Before You Sign the Lease course is to let you know the types of things that you would need to be concerned with before you open a location. Oftentimes, businesses are shopping in an area, they'll find a location at a shopping mall or an industrial park or an office building, and sign a lease and get ready to move in, but they may not understand that, you have to understand from the city, first of all, what you're going to do at that location, is it allowed per planning and zoning? So sometimes you might see a former business that you're in the same industry, but you may not be aware that that business needed approval from the city council, which was a special use exception approval. But if you didn't know that and you signed a lease, now you have to go through a process to get approved by the council before you proceed. And so before you sign a lease workshop, we'll have presentations from the Chamber of Commerce. They have a small business assistance program. And what the chamber does is you would meet with Teresa Aronson, their president, explain to her your situation. She then meets with a team of advisors consisting of engineers, architects, general contractors, attorneys, and they would then look at your situation, provide some advice, some things that you could do, or some options that you have that then Teresa would meet and advise you of. I kind of provide a similar service, but in my capacity, I can't do direct, consultation or advisement, because some of those things are really more specific to the business and really more private sector issues. My role is more to advise you on the city's side of all the departments and the regulations, but on the private sector side, the chamber's more equipped to do that. And so that's a program that they call the Business Assistance Program, and Teresa is one of our presenters in the Before You Sign the Lease course. And then also, the Planning and Zoning Department also talks about what's required for planning, understanding what planning means, what are the different categories of zoning throughout the city for commercial space, and what are the requirements that you have to go through. When you sign when you apply for a business tax, or when you go through a site plan, or any type of other zoning requirement. So we do have, participation also from planning and zoning, and then as well myself to kind of go over the services through the Business Navigator program, and then also advise you what's required when you start a business, getting a business tax receipt, all the approvals that you would need from planning and zoning, the building department, fire district, and business tax division. And so, what we are trying to do is kind of give you information in the beginning so that when you're going through the process, it's a little smoother, a little easier, because sometimes it can be frustrating if you don't know. And for many small businesses, this might be their first time. You may have experience in your professional career, but now if you're venturing out into something brand new, you may not be aware of all the requirements, and that's what we're here to kind of help walk you through and to participate. So kind of in a nutshell, that's the type of work that I do, for the city, and then also with outside groups like the Chamber of Commerce and the Economic Development Council. But if you have any questions.
Yes, we do.
Oh, great.
Mr. Wooten. So let's begin. Are any of these courses required by the city of Port St. Lucie or St. Lucie County, or are these just courses that we make available to help?
So, correct. These are courses that aren't required. These are just what I call added value. These are things that the city does to help our small businesses. One thing I did want to add with our Business Accelerator program, it also includes a small business grant. So the city did provide funding for a small business grant up to $5,000. It is a reimbursement grant, so it reimburses for certain expenses, including marketing and advertising expense, purchase of inventory or supplies, as well as professional service and employee training. And so what we normally do at the Business Accelerator, towards the end, we have what we call a pitch competition. And so for the students that do apply for the grant, they get before a judges panel, make a presentation of a little bit about their business, how the grant will help their business grow and what they're going to use the grant funds for. Then that judges panel convenes and determines the amount of the grant award. And then the small business, signs a grant agreement and has roughly a 6-month window to submit receipts for expenditures that the city then cuts a check to pay for. And so it's been a successful program. I think we're in our 3rd Business Accelerator, and it's something that we'll look to continue. And then one thing I did want to also mention is the Florida Small Business Development Center. We do have now a consultant full-time in Port St. Lucie at IRSC that the city council approved funding for. And so again, that gives you more access, more opportunity to talk with the counselors. And they have experience in different areas. Some are versed in finance, some are versed in marketing or management. But it's a great tool, a great resource, and it's available for free, to small business owners.
That's leads perfectly right into the next question of the cost. Do any of these add-in value services have a cost associated with them?
So for the Business Accelerator, that actually is a program that's sponsored by the city, so you actually pay for the course. There is a nominal registration fee of $25. For the other program that I mentioned before you sign a lease, that is free, and I'll forward Alex the flyer for that. For those who are interested, you can also register, and that'll again be next Wednesday, October 21st at 10 o'clock. So it'll be a great opportunity, even if you've kind of contemplated starting a business, you may not be ready to go into it full time, but you still want to kind of know when you are ready, what the requirements of the city are. I think that'd be a great opportunity to learn. And again, it will be virtual on Zoom.
Fantastic. So somebody missed a few of those details, but not to worry, because we will get the flyer out to everybody with the link to the website and your contact information, so everybody can check out the upcoming programs. And then obviously everything is also on our city calendar too.
Correct.
My events, your events, all of our events. I do have a question that I'm going to pose to you, and it is, I have not seen your position, the business navigator, at a lot of municipalities. So I think it's really kind of a luxury, and we're very fortunate to have you here providing this service. And can you just say a couple words of why you think that the position was created and why it's important to the city?
Sure. Like you, I hadn't heard of the term. I'm normally used to, economic development manager, economic development coordinator, economic development director, or small business coordinator. So I think the reasoning, the city council, when our city manager, Russ Blackburn, was hired, one of their priorities was to work with our development community. There were concerns that people thought the city was too difficult to deal with, that permitting or approvals or site plans took too long. And so when the city manager was hired, one of his priorities was to create a business navigator position. And the reasoning, again, is to work with the development community, work with the small businesses. And really my role, I'm more of a facilitator. So I'm not the end service, so I'm not actually reviewing site plans, nor building plans, nor doing inspections. We have a great team of professionals that do that. But, I'm more the liaison between the business owner and the departments, because what has to be also understood is for those departments, they work with the professionals that you hire, but not with the business owner. So when you're going through site plan review, that's going to probably be more of a civil engineer that's handling that. They'll advise you of where they are in the process, but the business owner isn't going to be dealing directly with planning and zoning. And likewise, when you're at a point where you're ready to submit permitting, it's going to be a general contractor that's licensed that's working with the building department. And so, I'm kind of the go-between the departments and the applicant. And then I'm also kind of the go-between, small business owners and resources in the community that can assist them. I kind of equate it to your local Google. So, when you tell me what you need, I try to find the direct connection. And then from there, once you get to that landing page, for lack of a better term, you're going to be able to work more directly with the resources.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I think it's important that, I give you that opportunity because it's a really interesting position. Yeah. The very last question, and then we'll let you sign off, is the Before You Sign course that you're offering next week. Are you going to do that more than once?
Yes, so that will be quarterly. We had our first one in I think July. This will be the second one in October. And then we'll have a schedule for 2021, which we'll release. But they will be quarterly. We're trying to make them consistent, so that way if you miss one, you can catch another.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Great
You're welcome,
information. We are going to take a quick 10-minute break, and we'll be right back with you. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sticking with us all the way to the end. Now we're going to get into the more exciting work of the Neighborhood Services Department. I am going to flip the agenda around a little bit. Instead of having him present at the end, I'm going to go ahead and have him present right away, and I'll go after him with my presentations. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our one of our code supervisors, Wesley Armstrong, and he will give you the presentation about the Code Compliance Division.
Hi, everyone. I'm Wesley Armstrong. I'm the Code Compliance Supervisor. Currently, I handle the east side of the city. So if you take the Turnpike and it basically splits the city in half, I control all of the code specialists on the east side and all of their properties that they handle with their cases. Is the infographic up?
It is now.
Perfect.
We gotta move forward on the keyboard.
Yeah.
Go from slide to slide.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's a quick presentation on Code Compliance Division. This is how Neighborhood Services is basically mapped out, our structure. So our Assistant Director oversees code compliance. We have a Code Compliance Manager, or sorry, a Office Manager that handles the admin side of our letters and notices that get sent out to residents and for our cases. And then we have our staff, which includes 15 specialists, 4 admin assistants. We have 3, I'm one of the 3 code compliance supervisors or nuisance abatement coordinators. And then we also have, no, that's it. Well, the 15 staff, yeah. So this is some of the things we handle. So the bulk of what we do are code investigations. Our main goal is safety. We want to comply out safety violations. So you might have an unsecured pool, storm shutters on your house that are against fire code. So we try and abate life safety issues. In doing so, we open up a case on a property. It may be as simple as high grass on a vacant home. We will go out, try and make contact. A lot of what we do is education. A lot of people don't understand what we do and our reasoning. It's not just the safety issues. Our concern is property values. We try and keep them up by enacting our code for high grass, for open storage, inoperative vehicles, as well as the safety issues concerning unmaintained pools and things like that. In our investigation, we might have someone we can't contact. There's nothing done to the property. So our next step would be bringing it to a special magistrate hearing. We come here at City Hall in the council chambers 3 times a month, every Wednesday essentially. Building has one as well. You'll hear about that when they do building department, I'm guessing, or have already done. So you've already heard about that probably. So we have 2 different magistrate hearings, one for east side, one for west side, and then another one for vacant lots, which I'll get to shortly. So if we cannot seek compliance through contacting residents and working with them in terms of timeframes to bring the property into compliance, we will bring it to a magistrate hearing. That magistrate hearing may give us the authority to enter a property to, let's say, cut the grass, remove open storage, secure a pool, various life safety issues that we can abate throughout that process, and assign that on a daily fine on the property in terms of a lien. So we handle the court aspect of it. We also can take it a step further and go through nuisance abatement, which is bringing it before council to have a ruling done to enter a property to abate violations that are pretty severe and public nuisances. We handle special events, permitting for that. So if you'll see on Mother's Day, flower shops open up at gas stations, things like that, we handle the permitting for that. Our staff also handles illegal signs and graffiti removal. So anything in the city right of way, throughout the entirety of the city, you cannot have a temporary sign there. We do not regulate content on sign. We pull them all immediately. That's just how we handle that situation. It's considered litter, essentially. We also deal with graffiti. The city has a pretty strict policy about removing graffiti within 24 hours. Chances are you are not going to find any within the city. If you do, contact us, and it will be removed within about 24 hours. We contact PD, we open up a case, we get with the property owners immediately, and we seek to cover it as soon as possible. A lot of times it could be gang-related activity. We saw some during some protest situations, and we try and handle that as quick as possible. We also deal with abandoned property registration, which is our vacant property program. So when a bank is trying to obtain a property going through foreclosure, the property sits there. So the city makes the bank register with us. That way we can inspect the property and ensure that it's being properly maintained. You may have a house near you that's unoccupied. Well, no one's there to cut the grass, no one there to remove any open storage, anything like that. So we proceed with our cases going forward, contact the bank, and look to abate those violations. And the last part of what we do is a vacant lot maintenance program. So you might have a vacant lot next to your property that is encroaching onto it. You have branches growing near your roof or your fence, things like that. So our department handles that as well. We go to the property, open up a case. It could come to our vacant lot magistrate where we can abate the violation. We hire a vendor to go on and cut it back 10 feet from the property line per ordinance. Here's some photos of things we handle. So you can see here open storage. These are actual cases we've had. So this could be someone you live next to. It's not the most pleasant thing. So unmaintained pools, you get a lot of mosquitoes. Unfortunately, when houses go into foreclosure, the pumps tend to go pretty quick as well. Eviction piles are a big one, especially the 1st and the 15th of the month when evictions go through. We haven't seen too many because of COVID and everything, but this is a thing that happens quite a bit, and we get on it as quick as possible. We'll actually have staff go to the property, either issue citations for this to get it cleaned up as quick as possible, or our staff itself, we have bagged this, we get with Waste Pro to have it removed immediately. You, of course, don't want to live next to this type of scattering of solid waste. We deal with illegal dumping. So you can see here a vacant lot. People tend to either make camps in them. There is a homeless population that we will handle that. Going in there, getting with the property owner, explaining to them what's going on, to look into having these camps cleaned up. You can see here graffiti, as well as signs that we do address. And then something like an inoperative vehicle or high grass on a property. So again, those are common violations that we will go in and deal with. We also do specialty. Every now and then we are asked by the police department to come with them on a warrant. So some of those things are a grow house where people will, let's say they're growing marijuana in their house. They'll illegally tap into the power main on the property. They will also create drainage to facilitate the amount of water that's coming in and out of their property. And if they're trying to bypass the amount of water being used, they will try and use nearby canals and things like that. So we work with other departments to try and essentially stop that from occurring. Our department happens to be at a crossroad within the city where we facilitate a lot of action between departments. We work closely with the police department, with Public Works, with utilities for various issues. For instance, Public Works, we will deal a lot with drainage, especially the last few months. We've been getting quite a lot of rain. So you might have a new building site near your property where the swale is not non-existent, essentially. So you'll have it backed up onto your property, or you might have a lot of silt and dirt, debris coming onto your property, clogging your culvert. We handle that. We go to the property, we contact Public Works and building. we come together to speak to the contractor, explain to them the situation, tell them to stop, usually give them about 48 hours, or we start issuing citations to ensure compliance. Our codes are constantly evolving. We try and stay up to date as much as possible. The codes are enacted by council and voted on, and one of them was permission to park in the city right of way. So on your property, an issue that people were having is it's a vehicle recovery area, the swale. So if someone, let's say your neighbor happens to be parking on your grass, per code, it's your responsibility to maintain that grass. So we enacted an ordinance to allow us to write parking tickets, which is one of the things we do as well. We will red tag a vehicle that's an inoperative in the city swale. We will also write commercial parking tickets or regular parking tickets for various violations on properties. As well as a new change to an ordinance about a year and a half ago was the temporary sign code, where we do not regulate content, as I said before, on city property. The signs themselves are just removed. It's considered litter. So we don't care what the content of the sign, we don't read them, we just remove them.
Really quick, Wesley, before you move on from those two quick changes, just to clarify for everyone, because this is always a hot topic, but can you tell us how we are allowed to park in front of our homes or on the swales or along? And then regarding signs, it's important to note, you can put a sign on your private property.
Absolutely.
On your private property, from your property line to your house, you can put a sign. You just cannot put it in the right-of-way or on any public property.
Any city-owned property, yes. So we'll go to the parking. So to park on your property, you cannot park on the wide side of the front lawn. So if you have your driveway is on the left or the right of your property, so let's say the driveway is on the left, you cannot park on the area between that and, which is generally in the front yard, in the yard in front of your front door. So it'd be, in this example, all the property on the right-hand side of that driveway, which tends to be the wider portion of the front lawn. This was enacted at one point to deal with septic tanks, people parking on their septic tanks and destroying them. You can park in the swale as long as you're 12 inches from the roadway with the road of traffic. So as you're driving down the right-hand side of the road, you pull off on the right side, your car is facing the flow of traffic. If your car's facing the other direction, that's a possible ticket. You cannot park within 30 feet of a stop sign, 30 feet of an intersection. You cannot block traffic that's visible on an intersection. So there's quite a few parking ordinances that we deal with on a daily basis. In terms of signs on city property, we have a strict zero tolerance policy. However, signs on private property, you are allowed on a residential plot up to 16 square feet. We do not regulate the content on the signs. You're allowed a sign. It cannot be cemented in. It has to be temporary, but you can have it up for 1 year on your property. That could mean you literally move it an inch, you got another year. So we don't regulate what type of information is on the sign. It's protected, it's First Amendment rights. However, we do consider anything in the city swale to be litter, and it's removed. If you're curious about what part of your property is the city swale, it's generally about 15 feet from the roadway, depending on where you live. You can go on the property appraiser website, find your address, and it will show you exactly where your property line is and where you can place that sign. If we typically see a sign on someone's property in the city swale, we will make contact or remove it ourselves to push it back. Just so we're not looking to take stuff in the swale in front of people's homes. It's more educating them on that. No problem. And then last would be to contact us. So if you send me an email, it's public record. This is something we try and explain to people. A lot of people like to remain anonymous when contacting code. Perfectly fine. The phone number's right here. Call our front office and explain that to them. If you want to call in a neighbor or a concern you may have, or even a question you may have, feel free to call. If you would like to remain anonymous, contact that number, explain that to them. I would like to remain anonymous. Here's the issue going on. We open up a case. I have an inspector go to the property and handle it accordingly. However, if you send me an email or through the One PSL app, keep in mind those are public record. I cannot alter a record. If you call me on a phone and explain the situation, I have to, or if you call my personal, let's say my cell phone, or send me a personal email and state, here's the issue, here's my address, my neighbor over here is having this problem, that goes into the case now. So just be mindful of that if you would like to remain anonymous. But we encourage people. We have 15 code inspectors, and there's about 75,000 homes now in the city of Port St. Lucie. So an extra pair of eyes is always good for us, especially on something that's a pretty serious life safety issue. We appreciate any assistance that you guys can give us. The One PSL app is great. It's a good way for us to contact you guys and vice versa on questions you may have or any issues. You can find that on our website, citypsl.com, and it's generally under other code or code compliance. You'll see us there, and feel free to ask away. My personal city email is warmstrong@cityofpsl.com. Feel free to email me. Like I said, I work on the east side of the city, and so I handle that staff. So chances are, if one of you guys live there and you've met with code there, that's one of my guys. So are there any questions?
So just one more clarification about signs. And this is always a hot topic, so I know
Yes,
that.
yeah, especially this time of year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna take a stab at it, and then if you want to add anything to that, how about temporary signs for realtors' open houses? So content is not regulated. That means that whatever's on the sign is not regulated. What's regulated is how you place the sign.
Correct.
So the same rule applies whether it's a realtor sign or a political sign or any other sign. It has to be on your private residential property. It can't be across that property line on the swale. So take consideration of about 15 feet.
Yeah.
Some commercial properties, what about commercial properties? Can you go onto a commercial property and put your sign there, or what would you have to do in that?
If you were placing a sign that is not directly on your private property, you would have to have the property owner's permission. So let's say you live down the street, you live off of Aroso, let's say, and you would like to have a yard sale and place a sign on somewhere on Aroso to get people to go down that street. You would have to contact a corner property, go there, speak to the property owner. Hey, do you mind if I put this on your property so I can get some traffic to my yard sale? You cannot place it in the median. You cannot place it on a piece of property owned by the city. We tend to use the swale liner as a guide, a swale liner or a sidewalk. So place it between the sidewalk and the home, or the swale liner and the home, not the other way, not toward the street. That's generally what my staff will look for. They're not going to pull a property appraiser. We own, generally, the city owns about 5 feet from the swale liner towards the property. We don't regulate. We won't go to a property and pull a sign that's a foot or two from the swale liner. But make sure it's on the opposite side of the swale liner. In terms of businesses, again, we don't differentiate between commercial or residential unless it's square footage of a sign. A commercial property can have 32 square feet, residential can have 16. So if you go to a property and want to place a sign, let's say at a gas station on the corner of Veterans and PSL Boulevard, you have to have their permission. You have to go in there and explain to them, hey, can I place this sign on your property so I can get people at this intersection to see it? You can't just go there and put it. It could be deemed illegal dumping at that point. And that could be citationable, which is one of the things we do handle as well. So just keep that in mind. Anything on private property that you do not own you'll have to have permission for that. So there are times where we do get complaints, especially the amount of signs on a property. We just had one that had, so a commercial property can have 32. This had 208 square feet of signage illegally placed upon it. The property owner did not give anyone permission. So it's one of those situations where we have to go out there and enforce, explain to the property owner, all the signs were removed. So,
And so, you mentioned the city property because that's your job, you're a city employee, but oftentimes, most other municipalities around us that might own some property near or in the city, like the county or Fort Pierce, usually follow the same kind of guidelines. So if you're in doubt, you probably can't put it there. So if it's
Right.
any kind of public property, more or
Absolutely.
less, you can't put it there. One last question is regarding constant complainers, or sometimes what we like to refer to as, a frequent flyer, or somebody who does something more than once, or more than 5 times, or more than 10 times. Do we have a way of reaching out and communicating with people that often have repeat violations?
so in terms of repeat offenders for violations, we will attempt contact, we open up case. If we have information for them, unfortunately, there are issues we can get into with mental health, things like that, where someone doesn't realize over and over they're in violation. We try and be a little more lenient given the situation. We've in the past reached out to family members, nearest contacts, neighbors to assist. We've gone so far as to contact Veterans Services to try and get some aid to people that are unfortunately constantly in violation. We also can go the other route of enforcement, which is citations after citations. So when we write a citation, that goes to county court in Fort Pierce. So it's a notch above us enforcing. It's a little more ammo in our arsenal, so to speak. So we can go there and try and go that route. We'll see it a lot with tenants, especially at a property where if you own a home and you're renting it out to someone and it's their responsibility to maintain the property, the tenant, we unfortunately don't see it like that. The city goes after the property owner, but we can write citations to that tenant for multiple violations within a short period of time.
So just to clarify, because the question came through again, there isn't like a special red flag that we put on someone's house or into the property appraiser app that when you type in an address, it comes up and it says red flag, they're a repeat code offender. No, that's not the
No,
case.
unfortunately.
We really work on, building our relationship with the community
Absolutely.
and trying to mediate as much as possible. I know the code officers also take the classes on how to de-escalate situations.
We call it verbal judo, situations we might get into. So my staff is in the field all day long. We don't have an office that we come to where they sit at a desk. They're in their trucks from the moment they clock in to the moment they clock out. They have their computer, they have everything there. So they're driving around the 40 hours a week, each person. So when we get to a property, we try and get them as much training as possible in terms of how to handle certain situations. Mental health issue is becoming a concern, and it's something we've spoken to staff about and are looking at ways for us to handle those situations. We came into a situation, for instance, where we had a resident who had high grass. Our specialists went to the property, realized there was a situation occurring. The lady wasn't grasping the concept of what was occurring. It come to find out in the process of our inspection, her refrigerator was broken and she was eating food that was spoiled, things like that. So we reached out to neighborhood partners. We got her a new refrigerator, reached out to the food bank, got her stocked her pantry and refrigerator. We also reached out to neighbors that were maintaining her property now. So we try and find avenues that we can go above and beyond rather than just put a lien on a house, because if the person whose property it is has no idea that there's a violation, us bringing it to a magistrate hearing and putting a lien does nothing to comply out the issue. Where if we try and look into a situation as much as possible and think outside the box and find an avenue that we can approach maybe from a more humanitarian standpoint.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Wesley. So now, they're clarifying that the question was also on the other end, the actual complainer. So I would say the same thing applies.
Yeah.
So whenever a code officer notices a violation, puts in an address, or gets a complaint about an address, you open up inside our internal systems and see everything that's been happening at that address. So the same
Correct.
way that a code officer would work with the property owner, they also would, I mean, if someone is repeatedly calling over and over again for complaining on the same property or on multiple properties near them, you might actually go out and reach out to the complainer and find out
Correct.
what's going on with them too.
Some people are misinformed about what a violation actually is. So for instance, per ordinance, a recreational vehicle, so a boat, a motorhome, anything like that that's registered, can be parked on a paved driveway, the side of your home, or the rear of your property, set back 10 feet from the rear. So people will come to us and say, well, this house has 3 boats in their backyard. Per ordinance, it is not a violation. And we've had instances where a neighbor just doesn't like this. And they can't understand why the city would allow someone to have 3 boats in their backyard. And will constantly call and call and call, to the point where when we get a complaint, we have to address it. We have to go by and make sure there's not a violation on the property, unfortunately. It's a part of our job and our commitment to ensure life safety issues are abated. So we will go to a property if we see no violations, especially on something with multiple calls. We do not want to be put in a situation where we're used to harass someone because there's a civil matter between 2 neighbors. So we stay out of that, and to the point where we will contact the person making the complaints and explain to them, we are not going to try and harass this person for you because you don't like X, Y, and Z, because they're not violations. And then move forward where we haven't done it since I've been here, but we could go the avenue of going to them, their property, and explaining to them in person, things like that. People tend to understand it's more misinformation when it comes to what a violation actually is, because code does change over the years. So maybe one thing that was in violation is not now. So things like that. So.
Thank you so much, Wesley. So yeah, the city is really big on customer service. The city is really big on education initiatives, and that's, the foundation of what the NICE program was constructed upon. And it's also the foundation of, a motif, let's say, throughout all of our presentations and all of our sessions. So Waste Pro is really upping up their game, and code officers do a tremendous job. Being out in the field every
It's a
single
tough one
day,
sometimes.
talking to people. Sometimes I think just as hard as it is for someone to pick up the trash on the street every single day, it's the same thing getting up and out and in and around the neighborhoods and talking to people and being in constant communication with them. And I'll leave you all on a funny note. The best question is when someone calls the office and says, well, can I have a copy of the Code of Ordinances?
That's always a good one.
Yeah. How would you answer that question, Wesley?
We direct them to the website because I personally would love to see what a copy looks like. It's probably 5 phone books
Yeah.
thick. So I don't think anyone in the city knows all the code. There's no way. There's so many of them split between our department building. There's a PD. There's no way. We will send them a synopsis if they request it. But
Thank you very much, Wesley.
my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So now I'm going to switch hats. I'm going to go from being the host to being the presenter. So it's going to be a little different for me, but bear with me. That is a really good question, So when someone calls our office, we always try and help explain things to the best of our ability. And sometimes we might have to go and research something and get back to someone because we might not have all the answers at the tip of our fingers. So, we're all human beings and we're all, living and working together. And it's a great department, a great division, code compliance, and I'd just like to leave you with another thought regarding code compliance before I get into the other presentations, but if you study political science or economics or government, you'll actually realize that not a lot of countries are like the United States. The United States is a very special country and a leader in the world for many different things, but not a lot of countries have code compliance. And it's not something that is available to everyone, and maybe not even available to everyone across the entire country. So some people might complain about code and our ordinances, but it's really a kind of a luxury to have a book or a code of ordinances that allows us to protect ourselves from health and safety risks in our community. So I'm really appreciative of it, and I hope that you all have a new found perspective on the Code Compliance Division. So we've gone through Waste Pro, we've gone through Code Compliance. Now there is the Community Programs Division, and that's my division. And we are actually probably one of the smallest divisions in the city, but we do a lot. And most recently, we have been doing a lot more with the CARES Act and all of the different programs that have been coming down from the federal and the state government trying to help our community. So it's going to be really difficult for me tonight to go through every single thing that we do or that we could potentially do with our programs, but I do just kind of want to give you a little bit of an overview of what we do. And normally I would even have 3, 4, 5 different people up here talking about the different divisions, but tonight it's just me, and I don't want to keep you here too late, so I'm going to try and get through everything quickly. I'm not going to go into depth a lot on this information, but the information will be uploaded to your virtual textbook, and you can read it at your leisure and click on any of the links for investigating some of the information further, and you can reach out anytime with questions. So our division is actually further divided into 3 smaller groups of services, or maybe 4. So I will have a different presentation for each one of those. And there is the NICE program. NICE stands for Neighborhood Improvement Community Engagement. And it was developed the year after that the Neighborhood Services Department was put together here at the city. And I'm going to get into that in a little more detail. Then there is also the housing part of our division. And housing doesn't necessarily mean construction or homes or anything that you might be thinking when you think of the word house, but it comprises a group of programs that the state focuses on and the federal government focuses on to try and make sure that we have stability in the housing market and we address any particularly disadvantaged or low to moderate income people who might not have all of the same opportunities that other people have for housing. Think of it as we want to protect our property values. We want to protect our community and make sure it's beautiful, it's safe, it's clean, it's growing, it's prosperous. But there's still always that person who works at the supermarket or who works at the gas station, and they live in your community as well, and they might not be as well paid as some of us, but it's important that we try and help balance that out, because if we don't have all types of jobs and opportunities in our city, then we are excluding someone and we might not be as diverse or as widespread or as prosperous as we could be. So there's the housing division, and we'll get into that as part of the community programs division. And then last but not least, there's grants. Grants is a huge thing. The federal government provides a lot of grant opportunities. Organizations provide a lot of grant opportunities, and so does the state government. So we manage a lot of the grants that the city receives, and we develop all of the programs and the projects that we conduct with those grant funds. So we don't actually go out into the field and construct a sidewalk when city council or the city manager determines that a certain grant can be used to build a sidewalk. But what we do is we help manage the other side of the grant, because when you receive a grant, it's not like you just get the money and you're allowed to do whatever you want with it. There's a whole lot of work on the back end. You've got to make sure that you follow state and federal regulations. You have to make sure that everything is very documented. You have to keep all of those files for 5, 10, or 15 years. You have to be consistently audited by these organizations and the government to make sure that you can keep on getting those grants, because it's up to Public Works and the vendors and the constructors to get the projects done, but it's up to us to make sure that we steward the grant money as to the best of our ability, as good as possible. Because there's a place where you can get flagged, for sure. We could definitely get flagged with the federal government. And once you get flagged with the federal government, then you don't get that money anymore. So it's really important that we manage that grant money very well. It's really important that you fill out your census. We've talked about that before, because the most accurate count gets us the most money for our community. So we receive millions of dollars every single year to invest in our community via the federal and state government, and we want to make sure that we get our fair share of the pie. Our city is growing tremendously, in leaps and bounds. We're doing our best to make sure that it's smart growth and that we stay clean, safe, and beautiful, a city for all. But we also have to make sure that we're very properly counted so we get the proper amount of dollars that we deserve. Okay, so I did that in 7 minutes, 6 minutes. I gave a little bit of an overview of the whole community programs division, and now I'm going to delve in a little bit to the more specifics of those 3 different components of the division. I'm going to start with NICE. All right, this is a slide that I like to make sure everybody is aware of, and you'll be able to explore it further when you get it in your virtual textbook. But the city of Port St. Lucie has a strategic plan. The strategic plan is constantly updated, checked, supported by council, by the city manager, and everyone works on the basis of the strategic plan because it's what frames our jobs. We have certain tasks that we have to complete, and we know that we have to complete. Those are our outlined job tasks that are in our job descriptions. But overall, we have to think of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is our strategic plan. So we have our goals, and neighborhood services is really directly correlated to goal number 2, vibrant neighborhoods. It's something that council is really keen on. So all of these links here in this slide are clickable, and you'll be able to go to all of the web pages on our site where information about the strategic plan and all of our citizen survey results are located. And there's a beautiful dashboard there that guides you through all of the different phases and processes of our strategic plan. If you're interested, Monday at 1:30 p.m., there is a special council meeting, and this special council meeting will be specifically focused on giving the council its yearly update on the strategic plan. So I will be listening in for sure, And I hope anybody else would be interested, who is interested in knowing how the staff in the city is performing towards those strategic plan goals, tunes in on Monday. Otherwise, you can watch it at your own leisure. You know, it'll be recorded and available by video on the meetings and agenda website. So continuing on, the strategic plan is constantly evolving, and there were certain definitions that were developed in the beginning, but as we grow and change, those goals and priorities and objectives develop. And most recently, all departments created business plans, 5-year business plans. And on Monday, we are actually going to unveil, so I won't give it away, but we will unveil an updated version of our definition of the word vibrant and the term vibrant neighborhoods. So stay tuned for that. Now, Carmen talked about in 2016, the Neighborhood Services Department was developed. I think it's fantastic that the city took that initiative to create the Neighborhood Services Department. Neighborhood services is a thing across the state of Florida. There are a lot of municipalities that have or had neighborhood services departments, and it's really focused on building participation, building quality of life for people across all communities in a city. What happened is during the recession, the Great Recession, a lot of the municipalities had to downsize, and the first thing to go was neighborhood services, because it's kind of a luxury, like code compliance in my eyes. But so it's wonderful to see how, rebuilding back from the Great Recession, the city decided to move in and create a neighborhood services department. And then, as we all know, the city of Port St. Lucie has a very unique history. It's a very large city. It was developed in a way that is not non-traditional. The developer, GDC, didn't really take the time to qualitatively plan out a full-service city. They really viewed it initially as a retirement community. So this is what the map used to look like. And if you notice, real tiny there, those are numbers, right? What do you think if someone says, where are you from? And I say, section 4N. How does that sound? Does that sound appealing? That your neighborhood is called a number? No, I'm from section 7. That's not really natural. What's natural is, you come from a neighborhood, and a neighborhood usually has a name. So what we did immediately after the creation of the Neighborhood Services Department is we went into a whole neighborhood planning process where we took the basic plans and plats of the city, and we developed neighborhoods so that we can grow neighborhood identities. And then we created the NICE program, which is Neighborhood Improvement and Community Engagement, because we really wanted to show that the city was investing in improving our neighborhoods and promoting engagement. The final result of all that in 2017 was that, I know this is really small, and if you go onto the NICE webpage, you'll be able to download all of these maps and view them in better quality. But the final result is that we got new names for all the neighborhoods. So now we have Whispering Pines, South Bend Lakes, St. Lucie North, St. Lucie West, Torino, Sandhill Crossing. We have 35 neighborhoods in all. And we didn't start with 35 neighborhoods because if you look out west, where all those big chunks of property are, those are new neighborhoods that are up and coming. They're growing. The city's growing. That little upside down triangle up there, that's Copper Creek. Copper Creek is brand new. It's not even really considered a neighborhood yet. It hasn't been finished, but it will be finished soon, and it will probably grow even more. So we have 35 neighborhoods, but I think in about a year or two, we probably will have a 36th, which will either be called Copper Creek or something else, depending on how many developments go up out there. You know, the challenge I like to challenge everybody with when they're here in person is what's your neighborhood name, and if you know your neighborhood name, but I'm going to go ahead and ask you that, and just with your reactions, put up a thumbs up or something so I can see if you do know what your neighborhood name is. This is another version of the map. You will see that within the neighborhoods, we've got some cross-hatched areas, and those are subdivisions. Those are private subdivisions. If you go onto our NICE website, there's a lot of information, but if you scroll all the way down to the end, you'll see NICE maps, and you'll be able to download both versions of the map if you're interested. But I will be providing you our very amazing neighborhood map in your package that you'll receive at graduation. And this is something new that we created last year. And it's a fold-out map that you will get, and it has all the neighborhoods there. And on the back side, we've got a parks map. So this is a nifty little product for you to carry around and have with you so you can see all the parks and neighborhoods in the city. And I'll make sure everybody gets one of those with one PSL on the back, so you remember to call one PSL if you have any questions. All right, what else does the NICE program do? We facilitate neighborhood meetings for neighborhoods that have not organized meetings on their own. So we like to consider these private subdivisions and HOAs part of the larger neighborhood. Just because you're in a private HOA, you're still part of a bigger neighborhood. So, for example, we can take some of the ones, let's say Sand Hill Crossing is the neighborhood that's all the way to the east, that blue piece sticking out over there. You'll see that there's some light areas in there. Just because there are some light areas in there, some private HOA communities, it doesn't mean that what happens in the Sand Hill Crossing neighborhood does not affect those management companies and those HOAs and private development. So I always like to encourage people, if you live in a private development, still come out to your neighborhood-wide meeting. And what we do at the meeting is talk about issues. We open up the communication channel between the city and the neighborhood, and it's a real fun process. Now we're going to be doing it virtually in November. If you have any questions, you can contact me or check out our website. This is actually the biggest part of the NICE program, other than growing our engagement. It's our recycling dollars. So we've talked about recycling tonight. We saw a demonstration how the truck works, and we know how to set out our garbage, and we're going to help educate our neighbors on how to do that. But what is so special about the city and the NICE program is that it's not funded by tax dollars at all. It's actually funded by recycling. So the more we recycle, the more we help advance the recycling industry in our city. We have put it into our contract with Waste Pro that the city receives back a recycling rebate. That rebate gets invested into a fund that we call the NICE Fund, and we use the money in that NICE Fund to execute neighborhood improvement projects and run the neighborhood engagement program, or what we do in our division. So just quickly, I'm going to show you a few different NICE projects that we've funded over the past couple of years. And we're always open to more suggestions through your neighborhood group, because it's really important that you engage as a neighborhood, because it could be that one person wants a bench on their street. So they call and they say, I would like for the NICE program to install a bench. And I'd be like, that's wonderful. But I would really like for you to come to your neighborhood meeting and tell your whole neighborhood that, and we get a consensus from the whole group that that's where they would like to spend some of their NICE money, because it might be that somebody else doesn't want a bench, or maybe somebody else might want something else. So I really like to make sure that suggestions are given in group form and are discussed in a group forum. and everybody knows about it, it's the most efficient way to provide feedback. And I'll give you an example of how that's done. But the utility boxes around town, has everyone seen them? I'm sure you have. If you want, give me a quick reaction on your screen. They're beautiful. I have people, municipalities, private citizens calling me at least once a month, if not more, thank you, asking me about City of Port St. Lucie utility boxes. Everybody across the state knows about our utility box program. Nobody has the funds to do what we did, and we did it through our recycling rebate. We swept the city. All of the city's utility traffic boxes are covered with beautiful artwork, and it was done with this recycling rebate. A lot of other cities have done some kind of wrap on some of their boxes in certain areas, maybe on a stretch of US 1 or in a downtown area, but nobody has comprehensively swept the city the way we did with the NICE program. So that's a real accomplishment. We're also helping to create neighborhood identities. And one way that we did that these past 2 years is by creating neighborhood entry signs, where we put up 2 to 3 signs in each one of the neighborhoods, in the neighborhoods that didn't already have signs, and we put up the neighborhood names so that everybody can start learning their neighborhood name. And this is what it looked like in the design phase, and this is what it looked like in the actual installation phase. So everybody should have already seen their neighborhood signs go up, unless they live somewhere like Sandpiper Bay or Tradition or Newport Isles that already had signs put in by the original developer.
Do you want any questions? Do you want to wait?
Yeah, I'm almost done with this, so we'll take questions right at the end. So don't forget about our website. There's lots of information there. We communicate a lot through all the social media channels, so make sure you go there. Who hasn't seen our beautiful Crosstown Bridge? That was a huge accomplishment. It was a fantastic opening ceremony, and I hope that everyone is so appreciative of what was done there and the years and time and energy that was put into that project. But that's something that really, really brought out neighborhood and community engagement. It was a long process with a lot of engagement opportunities. And there's our citizen survey. Our citizen survey gives us a lot of information every single year, and I have to be honest with you that the percentages of satisfaction just keep going up and up and up. We rarely, if ever, see any kind of drop in satisfaction levels of what the city is doing, especially with creating a place to provide input and facilitate engagement opportunities. So I'm not going to go into a lot of details. I already took up too much time here. I want to touch on the other topics before it gets too late, but there are lots of things you can do in your community, from a neighborhood watch to adopting a street and helping pick up litter. And we talk all about all of that at your neighborhood meeting. So if you're interested in coming, check out our website and email me if you have any questions. It's all about what you would like to do in your neighborhood, and everything is custom made in different neighborhoods. So it could be that you want to do volunteer opportunities. It could be that you want to clean up. It could be that you just want to hear and interact with the city, and whatever you want to do, it's fine. You make your own groups. And I always like to put this up at the end because I feel like the Neighborhood Services Department was created in 2016. The NICE program in 2017. It's only 2020. So we really have only touched the very tip of the iceberg. There's still a lot more we can do with this program. Okay. Now, Avi, why don't you give me some questions for the NICE program?
All right, Stefan is asking, are NICE projects available within gated communities?
Good question. The simple answer is no.
Repeat the question, because they don't know.
Oh, okay. I'll repeat the question. Can NICE projects be implemented within the gates of a private community? And the short answer is no. Tax dollars and rebates from the recycling program and everything that we do for the NICE program is a public benefit. So it really should benefit the public, and if the public does not have access to that area, so if there's a gate that they're not allowed within, we are not currently investing our efforts in there. And it might just be because, you know, the program is new and there are a lot of other places where we need to focus our efforts. But having said that, you know, the gated community is within a larger community. So even though we don't provide a project or guidance within the community, you still can do projects and develop ideas and initiatives outside the gates that border the private community, because that's part of the larger public benefit.
Larry is asking, what's the cost of doing a utility box?
About $400 to $500 is the cost to doing a utility box. It's not very expensive. We actually got a really good deal. I know that in Orlando, they've got a utility box program, and their company up there charges them like $3,000 to $4,000. So we got a really good deal. We work with a really good local company, and they do them well and very efficiently.
Last question. How much funding annually does the recycling yield for NICE projects?
So we get about $1 million, a little less than $1 million every single year. We don't spend it all every single year because I'm new. I've been with the city for 1.5 years. I really like to make sure that things are properly planned out. So I appreciate the planning process, the neighborhood planning process, and the neighborhood plan process. So I have been really focused this past year on the engagement aspect. So I have been working on the engagement aspect, and I'm really working with people to develop their neighborhood plans that we will put through a whole budgeting process. So the way it works is we receive suggestions, we process those suggestions, and then we go through a budgeting process where we put forth the proposals and they get approved or denied, and we move forward just like any other budget process. So these past 2 years, we worked on signs, neighborhood signs, utility boxes, and benches and bike racks and receptacles and pet waste stations even. This upcoming year, what was just approved in our budget cycle this summer that went into effect October 1 is a new project that I put forward and that I'm going to spend the next couple of years developing. And that is neighborhood green space. So what I am going to do with the money is develop project plans with the neighborhoods that are not near parks. So there are certain neighborhoods, and if you cross-check it with your map, there are certain neighborhoods that don't have a lot of parks or green spaces, in particular on the western side of the city and on the southern side of the city. So the Parks and Recreation Department has a 10-year master plan to develop more parks and green spaces. NICE is coming in with that money and is going to work on help beautifying and putting aside green spaces for the neighborhoods. And we are going to be redoing retention ponds, making them more lush, more viable. We help with exercise stations. So that's overall what's happening right now, and we're just in the planning process of that. But we're trying to hone in and focus on making sure that as the city grows and develops tremendously, and builders keep on building and businesses keep on coming, we make sure that we try and preserve some green spaces for the community and have that smart growth that I talked about.
Do you want to take any more questions?
How many more questions do we have?
We have two. One is not really related to this. It's about sidewalks. How do we get sidewalks installed?
Okay. Sidewalks are not part of our remit. They are part of Public Works, and we can talk about that when Public Works comes on. But if you Google or search on our website, there is a sidewalk master plan. Now, fun fact, building a sidewalk is extremely expensive. I did not know, and I would have never fathomed it was this expensive, but a mile of sidewalk, I'm gonna give you 5-10 seconds. Can you tell me how much you think a mile of sidewalk costs in American dollars?
In the chat, go in the chat.
In the chat. Any answers? Any stabs? Any guesses?
100K,
100K, good guess. I probably would have guessed something like that.
500K.
Keep on going, 500K. It's like 700K, right? So between all of the permitting, the planning, the engineering, the Federal Department of Transportation, all of that, it's super complicated process. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a builder. Very expensive. What we don't have the resources to invest in sidewalks from the recycling rebate. We do have a sidewalk master plan that's on our website, and you can see where the city is going to put in a sidewalk in the next 10 years. And that's because that's all we can afford feasibly. The city receives grant money, and this is the perfect segue into my next presentation, our grants.
We had one more. Do you wanna?
We'll take the next question really quick.
Oh, we have two now.
No, okay, so then I'm gonna have to hold off because we only have 15 minutes left tonight. And I wanna just briefly touch upon the other areas in the division. So I'll make sure you keep on adding all your questions in the chat, and I'll make sure that I get them answered later. But as I mentioned, the city receives a lot of grants. We used to manage all of the grants that the city receives, or help all departments apply and manage those grants across the city, but it just became too big of a task. So now we advise and we help. We focus on managing our state and federal grants that we deal with directly in our department. And the grants team across the city is growing, and we are building more staff time and responsibility to dedicate to the grant program. We're going to be creating a grant annual report every single year, and it's just getting to be a bigger and bigger job. So I'm just going to quickly go through some of the topics that we talk about, that we've talked about already and that we talk about internally. We always try, and there are so many grants out there, we really try and not apply for everything because that's almost impossible, but apply for things that directly correlate and align with our strategic plan. Our goal is to maximize grant revenue, enhance the efficiency of grant processes, and continue to build our grant program. So we go through a huge process of finding a grant, writing a grant, getting a grant, but that's just the beginning. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The rest is actually receiving the grant, spending the grant, documenting how we spend that grant, periodically always checking in with the government or the organization that gave us that grant. And it's a lot of money and a lot of time, and we have to make sure, like I said, it's managed to a T, because if any flags are put on us, then we risk not getting that grant funding again the next year. So in summary, over the past 5 years, we've had this much activity. This much activity it looks simple here, but it's really complicated because not only do we receive a grant 1 year, but it may take a few years to expend that money. Sometimes after we spend that money, we might have program income come back for 10, 15, 20 years after we expend that money. Because if we help build a home or refurbish a center, and there is some kind of covenant on that, meaning that you can't sell it for a certain amount of years because we've invested grant money in it, and it does get sold, then we have to recuperate that money back into the grant program. More or less, this is the time that it takes to write a grant and put it through the processes. It's very complicated. It takes a lot of time. It's tedious work, and I love it because I think the reward is just so great when you know that you're helping leverage the tax dollars that the city uses for projects and programs. So we talked about sidewalks. It could be that the city only has X amount of money to spend on sidewalks, but with grants, we're able to maybe double that money over the 10-year time period and build double of what we had originally planned. So the more we do with grants, the better. It just takes a lot of time, and it's a huge process. You can go into this in more detail after, and always send us any questions you have. I just don't want to bore you with all the details, but it is a huge job. All departments are involved. We at Neighborhood Services in the Community Programs Division are very involved because we're kind of the experts, because we deal with a couple of grants, big grants, on a yearly basis.
I have a great question if you want.
Okay, one grant question.
Barry's asking, is the city evaluating EV charging stations using solar panels to be net carbon zero? And same person's asking, could this be a potential grant program to become more green?
So,
Repeat the question.
yeah, the question is about solar panels and charging stations at the city. There is actually, or there was, a big push in our previous federal administration to create more green programs and get more funding out there for charging stations and solar panels. It kind of has moved to the back burner the last 4 years with the new federal budget, but I hope that it will come back to life. I know that some municipalities have received charging stations through Tesla and other private companies, so it's always an option. I know that I've been really wanting one here at City Hall, and I think we will be getting one in the next year, an electric vehicle charging station. So that's all I know about electric vehicles and solar panels right now. I don't know of any initiatives that the city has, but then again, you know, the grant process and receiving money and creating new projects, it has many, many levels, many, many tiers, from the federal all the way down to the local government and local organizations. So it's really hard to know everything about all of them. So I try my best to know as much as I can, but what I'm a real expert in is what we have available here at the city. And that's what I can give you the most information about. Other programs that are available at the county level, at the state level, or at the federal level, we usually turn to the experts at those levels or in those organizations to get more information. So not only do we specialize in what we do, but we also kind of specialize at Neighborhood Services in referring people to the right organization, because we represent the city in many different networks. One being a social agency network. So there is a local St. Lucie County or St. Lucie Area Council of Social Agencies, and we're part of that. So whenever someone has a social issue or we need to get information out to all of the social agencies, we work through that network. The same way we do that, we also work through a federal grant network and a consultant. And we also have very close ties with the county and other municipalities around us. So if we ever need to get information about anything else that is happening at any one of those other levels or tiers, we have a really good system of networks to do that. So if you have any questions about any programs that are not at the city level, please send them through the chat, send them my way, and we'll get them answered. So now, in the last 8 minutes that we have for tonight, I'm gonna quickly run through some of the city's grant programs that we participate in and receive grant funding for on a regular basis. So it's different than applying for a grant on a one-off basis. There are a lot of grants that you can apply for and win on a one-off basis. There are other grants that we have a right to every single year, but we have to properly steward those programs and steward those files and how the money is spent in order to continue to qualify for those programs every single year. And I have to say that, and I'm not boasting or anything, but the City of Port St. Lucie's housing and grant team has an impeccable record. an impeccable record with the federal government and with the state government. We don't have any flags. We do a magnificent job, and that's why we are consistent in receiving that money every single year. So the first one is the state's program, and it's called the State Housing Initiative Partnership. It works on helping to make sure we provide assistance to people who might be struggling. Everybody has something happen at certain points. You might be a homeowner and have a hole in your roof, but you just lost your job. You're working on getting a new job, but in the meantime, you have some difficulty. If you qualify, income qualify, you can receive assistance for different types of programs like emergency repair and rehabilitation or down payment assistance. Currently, we do not have those programs because our governor vetoed them. So this summer, our governor of Florida went through the budget and decided that that grant program would be vetoed. So it actually got zero funding, which is very bizarre. Normally, there is a fund called the Sadowski Fund that distributes that money across all municipalities. It's often swept. Like, they often balance the budget with it. This year, they vetoed it because in place of the State Housing Initiative Partnership money, they gave us CARES Act money. So right now, we are completely focused on CARES Act programs, which are directly correlated to COVID-19. And that means that it's no longer geared towards people with income issues, low and moderate income families and households. But right now, we're only giving money away to people who have experienced a COVID-19 hardship, have been laid off, furloughed, loss of hours, and so forth. There's a lot of information on that. We're doing a lot. We're providing emergency rental and mortgage assistance. We're providing Wi-Fi hotspots to families with students that do not have access to Wi-Fi because virtual school is the new thing. It's a new part of our life, and it's really important we make sure people have equal opportunity. So if a family can't afford Wi-Fi, we're giving it to them. We're also helping with emergency repairs, small and medium emergency repairs under $10,000. And that's currently, unfortunately, only available for people with a COVID hardship. Then there's the Community Development Block Grant, and this is where we receive millions of dollars every single year from the federal government for community development projects. And there's a lot of rules and regulations that go along with this money and how we can spend it, but we follow those every single time we get the money and we spend it in the community. We do things like build parks, build sidewalks, put up cameras in parks, improve things, plant trees, exercise equipment, all of the other stuff that we do with the nice money as well. This is a map of the areas where we can use CDBG, Community Development Block Grant money. So this is a census map, and this is why we talk about the census, and the census is so important because we need to properly count everybody and document everybody. The more population we have, the more money we receive, and the more good information we have about incomes and average incomes in our communities, we get more money to build our communities stronger, not only with tax dollars, but with local tax dollars, but with federal and state tax dollars. Then there's the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. This was a program that was funded after the Great Recession. It's been a long time coming, but we are finally phasing this program out, so we're just on the tail end of it. It was used to stabilize neighborhoods and hardest hit by foreclosures and home abandonment, so we've done a really good job in reinvesting those millions of dollars back in our community, and we are finishing up modeling and constructing our last few homes with that, and so that's going to be like a what is that now, 2008? 12-year program coming to an end. There is also VITA. It's another program that we use to help people with low and moderate incomes to taxes. That's a huge investment in our community. And like I mentioned before, social services. We don't provide social services here at the city. It's not our job, it's not in our remit, but it's near and dear to our hearts. We keep tabs on the social services available in our community, not only for us and for our residents, but also for people like Wesley and our code division, who sometimes need help finding social services for people they come across in their everyday jobs. And lastly, just some additional information. I've got our websites up there. I've got the strategic plan link up there. I have the annual report, which is a great publication from the city manager every single year. I've got our Council for Social Agencies, 211, it's 211palmbeach.org, but it covers the entire Palm Beach area and Treasure Coast, so don't be misled by that. Any problem you have, any problem a neighbor has, any problem a family member has, call 211. Suicide prevention, Veterans Affairs. They are the most up-to-date organization with all the social services in our community. So call them and ask. They've got volunteers manning that line 24/7. And there's also this, projects and improvements. I have a minute, we can go there. But this is another important one. This is Recover St. Lucie. This is the new website that we've created together with the county and Fort Pierce that has all of the recovery programs related to COVID-19 all in one place for the county, for Fort Pierce, and for the city. And you can find all that information for individuals and for businesses on that one page. So this is a super important site for us now with this COVID epidemic. But really quick, I just want to see if I can open a link. I'm going to give our
Click on
AV
it.
person a little test.
Just click on
Is it on?
You have to click on it.
I did. It's on my screen. Keep him on his toes the last minute of the show. Yep. Okay, so this is our project improvement site. And this is a new tool that we developed last year, which I love. It's all that stuff that we talked about and all that stuff that you guys probably have a million questions about. It's the 10-year repaving master plan so that, find out if your street's gonna get repaved. It's the information about Southern Grove, sale tax, the sidewalk master plan is here. It's all in one place and so many questions answered just on one big project tracking page. Not only that, this is the actual tool. If you push on it, it's an interactive map. And this map, all the departments keep up to date with all the projects. So if you're ever driving down the street and say, I wonder what's happening over there, the same way you wonder what's being built and you go check the property appraiser site, you might wonder what city project is happening somewhere. You can go there, click on it, and get information. That's the Crosstown Parkway extension. That's a great tool. We have a fantastic GIS department here. It's another luxury we have at the city. Not all cities and municipalities have GIS people on staff, but they help us with all of these interactive tools in order to make all of the information on our website as easy to look up as possible. And just the cherry on the cake at the end of the night is the nice web page that I'm going to show you because I love it. It's one of my favorite pages, but here you can scroll down and find all the information about all of your community meetings coming up and how you can contribute and the different documents that we discussed. Sorry if I'm going too fast, but I want to show you our other interactive maps. So you can find your neighborhood, receive neighborhood email updates, or check your neighborhood pages. But what I'm going to go to right now is find your neighborhood. On here, this is the neighborhood map and it's interactive. So you can go in here, type in an address, and find your neighborhood. And it shows you right there, that's where the address is. And if we zoom into that dot here at City Hall, you can see that City Hall is actually located in Bayshore Heights. And across the top over here, there are lots of other different maps. You can find your refuse schedule from Waste Pro. You can find out where schools and shopping and parks are, demographics. You can also find out where all the dog waste stations are that we have installed in the city. And we are looking to install more, so we're always trying to keep this up to date as possible. And there's so many maps that the list actually goes on over here. So you can find road closures and flood zones and sidewalks. Let's take a look at the sidewalk map. Those are the sidewalks that we are planning for over the next 10 years. You can zoom in to see a better picture. But, oh, and look, it's layered with the council map, so you can see also the council person responsible for that. So I think I touched a little bit on everything. Thank you all for sticking with me all the way to the end. We went 4 minutes over, but we've been ending ahead of schedule every other time.